Greetings everyone, Zannrath here, and welcome back to more Everlasting Summer, where last time we basically had a slumber party, right, with Ulyana. Isn't that what you do, right? You, watch a movie and then go to sleep. Some pillow fights in there, maybe. There are probably worse things in life than falling asleep while being cuddled by a little girl. And now the door opens and armed men leap towards us. Of course. And I can't make out what they're screaming, but their intentions are clearly far from good. Nah, I'm not scared at all. Rather, I'm embarrassed, or even ashamed. When I opened my eyes, it took me some time to realize where exactly I was. It was dark in here, only a dim light was gleaming under the door. That's right, you're basically like in a storage closet, right? Why do they make storage rooms without windows? It's 'cause then you can like murder people in the back room and people can't see. Come on, man, it's obvious. Although obviously that's the way it should be, but why on earth would anyone bring a TV set and a VCR in here then? So you can simulate like a movie theater, I suppose. I mean, it's better than where I worked for about a year. Like I worked in a research lab while in college, and I had a window right next to my desk, but the window was blacked out. Like they just put like black something. They either painted it black or just like black paper over it on the other side, because I think it like looked into like a it was like next to a cafeteria, so I think it looked into their storage room or something. I don't know, but yeah. So I sat next to a blacked out window, so it could be worse. You could have the illusion of windows, or rather, you can have a window, but it doesn't actually lead to anything. So I cursed the architects of this building in my mind and shook Ulyana by her shoulders. Hey, it could be the contractor's fault. Architect could have designed a storage room with a window, but contractors didn't put it in. Come on, get up now. She stretched, and as we were lying together, I could see her sleepy eyes even in the dark. What? Let me sleep. Ulyana tried to turn away, but I firmly grabbed her shoulder with my hand. I don't know what time it is, but regardless, it would be smart for us to get out of here. Not now, later, she whispered, half asleep. I said wake up, come on. I jumped up and easily pulled her to her feet. Ugh, you. Right, that's how you're supposed to make that sound. Moaned Ulyana with frustration in her voice. I started to look for a light switch, but then suddenly heard footsteps outside the door. My heart sank. Why so early? We have a truckload of work to do. No time to waste. You know that we have to do it all before the departure. All right, fine. Oh, we're gonna finally like hear about what they're building in terms of like robot cat girl. It looks like our two amped up cyberneticists are paying a visit to the clubhouse before the break of dawn today. Shush, I whispered to Ulyana. And she didn't manage to finish her sentence when I silenced her with my hand. It looks like she like bonked her on the noggin or something. Well, I understand all that, but we might at least have waited until after breakfast. Oh, do you have something else to do? Not really. I heard some hesitation in Electronic's voice. Of course, gotta go confess this to Xenia. Sure you don't want to head out to the library right now bright and early again? Oh, damn, sure, giving him a hard time now. Hadn't the slightest intention, he replied fretfully. Oh yeah, sure, if you say so. Soon the work kicked off behind the door. I could hear hammer strikes, machines rattling, and Electronics buzzing. Electronic and Shurik were discussing their own matters, so I wasn't paying much attention. I was more interested in knowing when they'll finally leave the building. Rather soon, breakfast time is coming. But if we take Shurik's passion into consideration, let go of me. Ulyana finally wrestled her way out, but didn't raise her voice at all. Why can't we just leave? She asked under her breath. What do you think? It's all fine? And what do you think? Well, what's the problem? Well, we spent the whole night here together. And it's obvious what they'd assume, considering I'd taken the precaution of closing the door. So? What do you mean, so? I tiredly sighed. Just trust me. I know it doesn't matter to you, but it does to me. Oh yeah, I'm sure it does matter to you, man. Okay, fine, we'll keep hiding here. Was that 14? 14 is like what? Isn't that high school? Isn't like freshman in high school? 4-year high school at least. Where that's what I did. I think that's the first year as a freshman, or maybe like end of middle school. But shouldn't you have had like sex ed by then? When did I have sex ed? I think I had it actually in sophomore year of high school. So, Agreed, Ulyana resentfully. I was prepared to wait for a long time if necessary, but barely a couple of minutes later, the front door opened and somebody came in. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Morning. It was Slavia. I just wanted to ask if something happened, or ask you... Blech. I just wanted to ask if you happen to have any sticky tape. We do. Somewhere. In the back. Of course, replied Shurik thoughtfully. Take a look in the back room. These words gave me goosebumps, and I grabbed the door handle in a stranglehold? Stranglehold. Slavia approached the door from the opposite side. I tried to pull it open, but I was straining against the door with all my strength. It's locked. Can't be. We never locked that room. Let me try. Shurik yanked the handle, but nothing happened. Although it took a lot of effort for me to hold steady. It's stuck. Give me a hand here. In a few moments, they were trying to open the door together with electronic. I grasped the handle as my whole life was depending on it, but regardless, this was a short struggle. My hands quickly gave out and I let go, and boom, they all fall on each other. The doors slammed open, and the bright sunlight blinded me, so I couldn't see the startled faces of electronic, Shurik, and Slavia for the first few seconds. Good morning. Morning. Ulyana was standing behind me, so that I couldn't see her, but I could feel the embarrassment in her voice. And what are you doing here? Asked Shurik, almost as if he wasn't surprised. Well, to tell you the truth, we were watching a movie. Ulyana brought a tape, and you have a VCR here. Shurik distrustfully stared into the depths of the back room. I gave Ulyana a nudge in the side until she got the message and displayed the tape. And what's that movie? A barely visible... Oh, man. Electronic. You're thinking of watching dirty vids? Come on, man. It's not the internet. A barely visible grin across Electronic's face. Just a regular film, a thriller, the latest thriller. Then I imagined what he and others were thinking right now, and I was overwhelmed with rage. If you think nothing like that. What's the last choice we're supposed to make? That's all her fault is the bad one, so we're going with that. Boom. I pointed my finger at Ulyana. Man, doesn't it make you feel like a man when you can blame little kids? Yeah, surely. She looked at me strictly in turn. Nobody's accusing you of anything, said Slavia without looking at me. At least there's one sensible person among all the present here. Yet. She added under her breath. What? Everything was exactly as he told you. Ulyana joined the conversation. Oh, wow. So she's taking responsibility for her actions. She didn't think about the consequences of her actions beforehand, or maybe she did, she just didn't care. But maybe she's now taking care of herself and me. We were just watching a film, and I felt sleepy. It was so late. We didn't think anything. Just a stupid situation. Come on, enough. Electronic tried to pull it off with a jest. I think Olga Dmitrovna will be the judge here. I think she's already judged. Slavia said in a cool voice, Hey, wait, why take this to the camp leader? Who else? But, you see, we're telling the truth. I'm not one to judge, but I'm judging you so hard right now. Damn it, then who? You have seen everything with your own eyes. That's for the camp leader to decide. Slavia said quickly and turned to go. Just wait. I appeared before the door in a single bound and blocked her way. Listen, this is none of my business. Slavia was trying to avoid my gaze. Oh, she doesn't want to look. She doesn't even want to look me in the eyes because she thinks that I do stuff with little kids. Oh man, of course. It seems like she's almost uncomfortable about the situation. Okay, so I'm glad that we don't actually do anything, and everyone just thinks we did. So I don't know. I am just obliged to. Whom are you obliged to? Why do you need to do this? Because she was unable to find the words to finish because she's a goody two-shoes, right? Model pioneer. So So you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to tell anyone anything. No, she said nervously. Or rather, no. I don't know. That's more of a questionable no. She said nervously, but then raised her head and gave me an intense gaze. I'm sorry, Semyon. Just leave her. Let her go. I turned my head to Ulyana. This fraction of a second was enough for Slavia to slip out of the clubhouse. Wait, just wait! I yelled at her as she ran, but it had no effect. Pursuing Slavia in a futile attempt to prevent her from going to the camp leader made no sense. If she intends to, I can't exactly tie her up. I'm sure you could, man. I'm sure you could. She might like that. I don't know. She can't prove anything anyway. Ulyana chuckled. Who cares whether she can prove anything or not? If you don't understand don't you understand your position in all of this? In any situation you're involved in your guilt is a foregone conclusion. Moreover, in a case like this, well, we are responsible together then. She smirked trickily. Exactly. I left the building and sat on the stairs. Well, we'll be on your side, just in case, right, Shirk? I think so. I don't clearly understand what happened here, but presumably nothing that worrying. Of course, Shirk is completely asexual and just doesn't even get what people are thinking or what people are imagining what happened. Okay, we're going for breakfast. Soon we lost sight of them. Let's go and eat as well, Ulyana said cheerfully. Food is all you think about. Why bother crying? Will it change? Or what will it change? She was right about that at least. We just have to wait for the camp leader's decision. Let's just go. We headed to the canteen. All the camp had gathered for breakfast except Olga Dmitryevna and Slavia. It might be for the best, I guess. What are you thinking about? Ulyana asked me cheerfully when we took our food and sat. The same thing. Come on, stop worrying about nothing. Maybe it's nothing for you. Well, really, what was particularly bad about that? Every situation can be interpreted from different angles, and especially if you have a reason. Come on, what's the worst that can happen? Well, you can evidently get some letter sent to some guy that says you can't go to or join the Communist Party. Evidently, it's the worst thing that can happen. It would be exiled, I guess. Our camp leader, she's a bit eccentric. Well, maybe so, but we didn't do anything like that after all. I guess she does know what's going on then. I hope she believes that too. My relationship with Ulyana had improved dramatically lately. At first, I only saw her as a naughty, ill-mannered child, but I now started to see the good side of her character, although there weren't too many. And now, just when everything was starting to work out, a hard conversation with the camp leader loomed ahead. Maybe I just dreamt everything that happened, and Slavia's reaction this morning was just caused by surprise. Enjoying your meal? Olga Dmitrievna was hanging over me. She looked at me menacingly. Yes? Would you mind explaining your behavior? Mind explaining what? Well, for example, how did you happen to be in the cybernetics club utility room? Where did you get the key? What were you even doing there? I recall the circumstances in which I obtained this cursed key. I should speak to Electronic about that. If Slavia told you our version, you were watching a film, Ulyana claimed seriously. The whole night? The camp leader asked sarcastically. Then I fell asleep and Semyon stayed with me. And so there was no chance for you to go to your cabins? Not even a tiny one. And what are you going to say? Well, it sounds really stupid, but she's right. You expect me to believe that? Well, it's the truth. I can't really accuse you of anything. The camp leader started slowly. But on the other hand, this entire situation is beyond normal. Pioneers must not behave this way. And there are too many inconsistencies in your story. We get it. I agreed fatalistically. I will do the following. Ulyana, you are on detention. You'll be confined to your cabin, and I will decide what to do with you later, like for the rest of the day. I looked at Ulyana attentively. Contrary to my expectation, she didn't look upset. Clearly, I do not think this is your fault, but to be fair. Great, you know where to find me in case you need me. Of course. She stood up instantly and headed to the exit. Olga Dmitrievna did not try to stop her. There's always too much trouble with her, and she got you into all this? Really? She's not gonna be like, you're like the instigator because you're older, you should know better and whatever. Like, she's like, okay, well, she was a troublemaker, we knew that, and she got you into all this. Like, really? That's your approach now? I don't really get what she got me into, and you seem to be too harsh on her. Show me another pioneer like her. The camp leader laughed. When she receives attentions for misbehaving, that's another story. But here, actually, I don't really understand what was indeed going on, but my duty is to look after your moral character. And this situation is suspicious. Highly suspicious. And how long are you going to keep her imprisoned? I don't know. Maybe till 5 when the bus comes and everyone has to go. Right? Day 7. Olga Dmitrievna pondered for some time. Today is the departure. Ah, finally someone told me. I think it's the first time I haven't slept through it in like a long time, right? Lena and Slavia, we just slept through it. Or slept all the way up almost to it. But in these circumstances, what about, wait, hold on. What departure? I jumped at the word. The term is ending today. This is the last day. What? This was the only response I could squeeze out. The last day, meaning I'll finally be able to leave this damned camp. Maybe it's my time, or it's time for my suffering to end, and I'll get back to my ordinary reality. But why so suddenly? Sudden for who? I talked about it in the lineup. She has a point. At the lineups, I was usually sleeping or looking around, didn't really listen to the announcements. And at what time? About 5 o'clock. Don't forget to get ready. I hardly have anything to pack. She stood up, took a tray, and was going to leave. So what's going to happen to Ulyana? I don't know yet, I told you. She'll probably leave later. How's that? Not with everyone? Well, yes. Is that normal? I was truly surprised. What's wrong with it? I don't know what's wrong, but it's quite strange for sure. Well, I still have work to do. That's interesting. I dug aimlessly at my porridge, which had gone cold long ago. Departure, the possibility of getting out of here. But on the other hand, Ulyana, I myself felt guilty before her. In the end, I was penalized she was penalized while I at the same time wasn't. Yeah, I'm actually really surprised about that. That's not fair. No, it's not like I wanted to share her misery. I don't think it's fair that she sits there locked up. Well, there's still some time before leaving. It should be quite enough to make the situation clear. First, I decided to talk with Slavia. I hope she has calmed down. Comrade? I'd gotten used to finding Slavia at the square, so I went there without any doubts. Why exactly there? Because in this camp I predominantly met her there. But there wasn't a single soul near Genda's haven. I stood there for a while, looking at the monument, then headed to the library. It makes sense that Xenia would know where her neighbor is right now. I knocked at the door, recalling my previous experience with this was not a usual mannerism. I went in. Xenia distracted herself from a book and looked closely at me. What do you want? What's wrong? Why do you act like that? I can't even come in? What? You can come here for no reason? I doubt you want to do some reading or something. Or I doubt you wanted to read something. Well, no. The classics of Marxist Leninism weren't my favorite literature. I wanted to know where Slavia is. Why do you want to know? She said that as if she was sure that the conversation is over, and thus proceeded with her reading. Well, since I'm asking, clearly I need to know. She should be on the pier. Xenia answered indifferently. Thanks. Learning what I wanted to know, I hurried out of this stronghold of malice. Yes, Xenia has a tough spirit. At least I have issues understanding her. On the pier, some pioneers were pulling boats into the docks while others were running around with oars or ropes. After looking closely, I noticed Slavia, who sat quite far away near the water. Cleaning up, I asked the most neutral question that came to mind. Yep. She answered without turning. Listen, I want to talk about Ulyana? Well, yeah. Honestly speaking, I had no idea what to talk about. Slavia found us in the storage room, got it wrong, and told everything to the camp leader. Now it's not her concern anymore, if you think about it. On the other hand, it would be a waste of time to talk to Olga Dmitrievna now. Maybe I just subconsciously wanted to understand Slavia's reasoning to be able to absolve her somehow. So what did you want to say? Well, Ulyana got punished. Maybe she won't even leave with us. No wonder. I just wanted to explain to you that nothing special happened there. Frankly speaking, I don't know. I just had to report everything. So you did. Did it leave anyone better off? I mumbled to myself. Of course, I'm not sure if it was right, she said confusedly. Well, what's done is done. Do you think it's possible to get Ulyana freed from house arrest? You're worrying about her so much. Slavia finally looked at me and smiled. Not about her, about justice. While I was, while I was a bit confused, I found the right answer. Well, you know our camp leader. I do, that's for sure. Just wait, she'll calm down eventually. Yes, I guess that was the best decision. Yes, you're right. I stood near her in silence for some time. Slavia didn't seem eager to keep on talking. Still, there was some sense of incompleteness, but faced with the idea of this uncomfortable situation lasting for several hours, I decided not to be a burden. Okay, I'll go then. See ya. Or see you. She smiled. In the middle of the square, I stopped to think. There's still a lot of time till departure, and I have nothing to do. Just yesterday, when it seemed like I was stuck here forever and had lots of time, even though there was actually very little, I felt a need to think and act faster. Of course, you're gonna go visit Ulyana, right? In house arrest. But now that I've got only 5 hours till I leave this camp forever, I have not a slightest idea of how to spend them. I decided to visit Ulyana, of course. After all, even if she isn't allowed to leave her cabin, that doesn't mean I cannot pay her a visit. I knocked gently. You're not welcome here, an angry voice sounded from behind the door. I pulled the handle and entered. Pulled on the handle. Hail, pioneer. Oh, it's you. Ulyana said disappointedly. And what, am I the only one who isn't welcome here? I tried to smile. Why did you come? Well, I thought you'd be bored here all alone. I'm fine. Where's Alyssa? As you can see, not here. Come on, why are you so angry? In the morning you were in a much better mood. Angry? Me? Not me, that's for sure. You have nothing else to do, so you came here, right? Yeah, my bad. I sighed theatrically and hung my head. Well, I'll sit down then. I sat on the opposite bed. So, tell me something. Let's come up with a way to prove Olga Dmitrievna that we did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. Or I did nothing wrong, Ulyana corrected me. You seem to have nothing to do with it. Okay, let it be. But why? A tricky question. It feels like we've swapped our roles. I was suggesting a stupid plan while she was a voice of reason. Well, because we did nothing wrong. What's the matter with you anyhow? I just stayed grounded for a couple hours and that's it. We'll have to depart soon anyways. She flopped down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Well, sure, but I tried hard to cheer her up, but it looks like I haven't succeeded so far. Want to do something maybe? It's lunchtime already. I took a glance at my watch. Yeah, right. Here's a job for you. Since I mustn't go out, go and bring me something to eat. Of course, sir. Yes, sir. I saluted her and hurried out of the cabin. Recently, I started to think that finally something had clicked, or has clicked, in Ulyana's mind. Maybe the punishment had an effect on her, or possibly it was something else. And my attitude toward her has changed. Her wrongdoings used to make me feel nothing but irritation, but now there was also understanding and a sort of sympathy. The owl's not there anymore. Too bad. After all, I used to be a child too. I don't think 14 is a child. Like, even if you're like 50 and you see a 14-year-old, I don't think you. Well, maybe some people do, but that's like a I don't know, just like a generic noun that you use to address people, like man or dude or sup, or not sup, but like guy or something like that, right? Friend. So I don't think Ulyana's a child if she is 14. So perhaps if one explained to her what is right and what is not, she might be able to avoid many mistakes. In the canteen, I had an argument with the cook who refused to give me a double serving. However, everyone in the camp already knew about Ulyana being grounded, so eventually my powers of persuasion won out over dietary standards. Soon I was sitting at Ulyana's camp and tucking away meatballs with potatoes. just like a last meal. What are you talking about? Well, every death row prisoner has a right to make a last wish. Thus, my last wish is a lunch like this. To my surprise, the food was really delicious. What would your wish be? Well, to not be executed, of course. She laughed. You can't. Why? If you can wish for anything. Well, if you can, but within certain limits. Excuse me. Let me take a sip here. All right. That means it's not anything. Well, okay, it's not anything. Then that's not interesting. Well, I believe being a death row prisoner is hardly meant to be interesting in the first place. I grinned through my teeth. I wouldn't know. I never went through that experience. But if you think about it, it's almost my situation. This camp is my cell. For several more hours, I'll stay under arrest, and then I'll face uncertainty just like I would after death. The only difference is that I had more options. If I wanted to attend the lineup, then I'll do so. If not, then I didn't. What are you going to do next? What do you mean? Well, after the camp. She looked at me in surprise. Back to school, of course. Yes, only for me, leaving this place is kind of like crossing a barrier, a frontier, the end of something and the beginning of something else. A week ago, it was terribly hard for me to realize that I'd been pulled out of my usual world and brought to God knows where. But then I got used to it. And here we go again. Basically, the only difference is now that I face not a sense of fear and horror, but a blunt, sinking feeling of uncertainty. And you? Well, I'll find something to do. Something? She burst into peals of laughter. Yeah, what's the matter? You should have gone to a circus school to be a clown. Why? One can't help laughing when looking at you, but why? You always act like some kind of martyr, a new messiah for all the Russians. Well, that was quite a bit of truth coming in her words. There was a bit of truth. I have my reasons. I mumbled and turned to face the window. What reasons? Various. Why are you so curious? Haven't you forgotten that I'm a child? She grinned archly. Well, half an hour with you is like a terrible torture for me. Look who's talking. You're just one really nasty-tempered person. Well, what makes you think so? You're always deep in soul-searching, trying to find out something, analyzing everyone around you. I gave Ulyana an amazed look. I would have never expected such a little girl to be capable of such mature judgment, and that's it. At the very least, I know how to behave myself and I don't end up getting grounded. Or don't end up grounded. It's a matter of chance. She grinned. Yeah, sure. If last night... She stopped shortly. Last night what? Nothing. Finish what you started. She just opened her mouth when steps were heard behind the door, and a second later, Olga Dmitrievna entered the room. Okay, well, I wonder if she's gonna think like, oh, what are you doing alone in the cabin? There you are. That's even better, she said, confused and lost for words. Well, I can reconsider this morning's incident. It's not like it became much clearer, but it doesn't look like a big deal. So, Ulyana, you're officially not grounded anymore. If only you did that right from the start, I muttered. Did you say something? No, nothing. Departure is coming. Time to pack your stuff. Saying that, she left the cabin. Now you see how it all turned out. Yeah. I sighed. Are you going to pack? Yeah, I guess so. And you? Yeah, I'm going to pack my stuff too. She didn't reply, so I left the cabin. Well, looks like my last mission in this camp is complete. Ulyana's sentence was overturned after all. The only thing left for me is to leave this place and get ready for something new. I swept my eyes around the room as I entered the camp leader's cabin. Do you have anything to pack anyway? I stuffed my winter clothes into a bag and took a seat on the bed. I was haunted by an agonizing feeling of incompleteness, either deja vu or a feeling that I forgot something and still can't remember what it was exactly. When all is said and done, I haven't managed to find any answers here, and now I'll have to continue my quest elsewhere. Does it really matter how and why I came here if it's not possible to escape? It seems that nothing's up to me anyway. Everything seemed simpler before. Sure, I had no major prospects, my perspectives were hardly mind-blowing, but at least everything was pretty much clear. Yet the week I've spent here raised more issues than my whole previous life. Clock struck 5 o'clock. I took the bag and walked quickly to the bus stop, worried they might leave without me. And let's go ahead and skip through this, because I'm sure that's the same. Yeah, come back next year, get emotional and all that. Where is Ulyana? Did I skip something? I ran an eye over the crowd, looking for Ulyana. Where is Ulyana? She won't be going. Uh-oh. The leader answered shortly. How? Why? She's grounded. But you said... She's at it again. What do you mean? Hey, get inside, or they'll leave without you. And of course I'm not going to leave without Ulyana, right? Indeed, I was the last man standing outside. Wait a second. Move it! She nudged me onto the bus. I decided not to argue. Here at the... Oh. We are going to leave her. Well, I guess that's the bad ending, right? If it was the good ending, I'm sure we would be like, no. Pushed our way off the bus and go see her, right? Here at the end, I can't be held responsible for her forever. Here we go again. If she's going to be so stubborn, then it's up to her to face the consequences. I took the last seat. There was no partner for me, which is fine. Which I was fine with at that moment. However, soon enough, Alyssa moved to sit next to me. Alyssa. Where's Ulyana? Stayed. Why? Grounded. I gave one-word replies, showing no interest in conversation. Why? Dunno. And what, you haven't tried to find out? Is it worth staying back for? You should. For what? If you want, you can stay. We haven't gotten far. Yeah. She said calmly and went off to her place. Slavia and Xenia were sitting in front seats and talking with enthusiasm about something. Lena, Miku, Shurik, Electronic were sitting closer to me and playing cards. Alyssa and some other girl were looking through a magazine. Probably I was the only one who had nothing much to do. I caught myself thinking that I still felt a bit guilty about what happened to Ulyana, but what could I do? If I stayed together with her, I would have probably missed my only chance to leave, and in my position, playing such games would prove fatal. And apart from that, enough is enough. Yet, I couldn't stop thinking about her, that I'm at fault, that I've acted cowardly, done a bad thing, that anyone in my shoes would have. But why? Anyway, who is she to me that I need to take a risk for her sake? It was even harder to answer this question. During the week I spent here, I got to know her and others quite well. In the end, I felt responsible for Ulyana in some way. But what's the point of thinking about it now? I'm leaving this pioneer camp. I'm heading into the unknown. Starting from this moment, I have to make all my decisions based on the assumption that this world is alien to me and, most probably, hostile. And I have no one to rely on. Although, thinking about it, such a state of affairs isn't new for me. I was always alone in the past. Sovionok has been left far behind me. Night has fallen on this strange world. It was so dark that it seemed the bus was floating across the bluish-black ocean. Have I read this before? And only sometimes would gloomy forests and fields reach the horizon. The horizon rise like waves from its surface. Anyway, the surroundings were the least of my concerns now. I was knee-deep in my reflection. It feels to me like I've left some unfinished business back at the camp, even though I can't go back there now. Bad things, good things, everything will be forgotten soon, leaving only the fact of my appearance here, the end of my old life, and the beginning of the new one. Practically speaking, it's nothing fancy, just an 80s pioneer camp that I was being beamed to from my own time. In any case, I'd rather worry about what's waiting for me at the town we're heading for. After all, I've got nowhere to return to. I have no home, no money, no friends, or relatives. All these pioneers that I'll part ways with in a few hours. I won't see any of them ever again. And them? I don't think that they will remember me in a couple of years. It's not a big deal for them. To them, I'm not a time traveler, but a common boy, their peer. The road seemed endless. Most of the pioneers were long asleep, yet I was still fighting the urge to take a nap. It's always better to enter the unknown while remaining awake, though the unknown always has an edge in this battle, the flow of time that is able to control as it sees fit. You wait a minute, an hour, but nothing happens. Your nerves, already strung out to their limit, finally surrender to the stress, and you just fall asleep. Just like that. Day. Alright, how's this gonna end for us now? Felt like I hadn't slept at all. It happened Yeah, it happens all the time. You just close your eyes and fall asleep. The hour hand may make several turns. The morning comes and you wake up, but it feels like you just blinked. I yawned so wide that I almost broke my jaw and jumped up because of the pain. Something was wrong, though not something, everything was wrong. I was back in my apartment. Oh, it's an apartment now, not a flat. But, how can that be possible? I began to panic and started to run around the room in hope of calming myself down. Just like Ulyana does, running around the room, right? Physical tiredness can often overcome an emotional one. My head was empty, fear and terror took over my whole being, and some kind of song was floating in my head. Maybe a prayer, or maybe just an incoherent jumble of thoughts designed, if not to calm me down, then at least to distract me from my panic. It was about half an hour before I collapsed on the floor, exhausted, and fixed my eyes on the ceiling. It seems like I had not gone anywhere. The old chandelier looked down at... Oh, you have a chandelier? It's just a small one, okay. The old chandelier looked down at me unkindly with its dusty lamps. The cracks in the plaster were the same places. The unstuck wallpaper hadn't slipped down even a little. Was it really a dream? But it can't be. It just can't be. I spent an entire week in that pioneer camp. I was definitely there. I remember everything perfectly, from my awakening aboard the bus right up to departure. Neither dreams nor hallucinations can be that real. Somehow I stood up, went to the kitchen, filled a glass with water, and turned to my room. The blood was still hammering in my temples, but at least the terrors of the first few minutes was gone. Or had just taken a break. I concentrated on the last thing I remembered. It was the departure from the camp. The night the bus bounced over the bumps, the dirty, murky glass beyond which almost nothing was visible, and the pioneers. I'd been absolutely positive that I would never return. Or just didn't think about it. Anyway, I was prepared for our arrival at the district center in a few hours and was already considering options for my further actions. Or not. Damn it! I roared and pulled my hair with all my strength. I can't remember. The last hours in the world merged into a monotonous mirage, as if drunken Renoir was completing his painting with a roller instead of a brush. But it's not that bad. Wait a minute, why would it be bad? On the contrary, everything is fine. I would say perfect. I've broken free from that goddamn world and returned home. The most important thing now is to end up there again. It might happen, surely it could. But it might not happen as well. Indeed, I have nothing to worry about. Everything will be fine. Obvious, I was just seeing things exactly I was seeing things. It doesn't matter that everything felt that real. Something that just can't happen. It can't. I claim with all my due confidence that it just can't. Modern science claims it's impossible, not allowed. I laughed loudly. An inner voice tried to stop the verbal diarrhea spouting from my mouth, but it didn't succeed. It feels like my speech and thoughts are separating to exist on their own independent from each other. Like on their own, independent from each other. My brain prompted me to calm down and try to analyze the situation, while my tongue simply tried to ease the stress by throwing new meaningless words out into the air. Finally, I was somehow able to pull myself together. I pulled the curtains open and looked out the window. The night city looked exactly the same as it did a week ago. The view, that's actually a pretty nice view, man. From your apartment, that's a really nice view. The view brought my mind back to reality, at least to some extent. After all, if everything is now normal and nothing suspicious or supernatural is happening, then wasn't it a dream? Essentially, there are only two options now. I can agree that it was just a dream and calm down, or I can trust my own feelings and accept that the camp, the bus, and the pioneers were real. Either way, whatever I choose, I won't get any answers. It's funny, I was looking for these answers for a whole week, or at least pretending to, and found nothing, but I broke free from that weird world anyway. And what now? Enigma remains, and additional questions have surfaced. In the end, I was exhausted and fell onto the bed. In a few seconds, I was snoring blissfully. And Much time passed from the moment I came back from Sovionok, and a lot has changed in my life. The first week I was racking my brain trying to summarize in detail everything that had happened, creating graphs and diagrams, writing to forums discussing paranormal phenomena. I even planned to visit a psychic. In the end, it resulted in nothing, just as one would expect. It's no wonder. I was just a human being, but these events obviously were the affairs of a supreme mind. If a caveman found himself in the early 21st century, even he would understand more than me. Well, at first, he would think that a cell phone that transmits someone's speech dozens of kilometers away by the will of God is a miracle. But one can get used to it. Maybe if he completed secondary or higher technical education, he would even be able to understand how mobile communications work. It's a basic, exaggerated example, just as unreal as everything I experienced. I'm unlikely to ever understand how it worked or who was behind it, and I doubt that I could get used to it. If it were to happen again. But one question troubled me ever since. Why? Why me? What did I or did I not do to deserve this bad or good luck? Sure, in sci-fi novels, wonders often occur to quite ordinary people, but that was just a matter of chance. But I was absolutely positive that these events had occurred for some reason, just like a random sci-fi hero who traveled 1,000 years forward in time, leaving him in the wrong time and place. But in the future, no one knew him. Everyone thought he was just a madman. But in my situation, they were expecting me at the camp, at least the camp leader was. How should I respond to that? Maybe I was picked out at random to be studied later on. Even so, the question why not only still stands, but rather becomes even more important. After not finding any sufficient explanation, I returned to my usual existence. But now I wasn't just sitting on my computer 24/7, wiping the F5 button free of dust. New interests came into my life, but what they were I can't tell myself, and suddenly I wanted to get a high education. Not to find a job, and not because it's necessary, just because I remember how much fun I had during my first year of education. Chatting with course mates, days of lighthearted, youthful fun, plenty of the energy that had lacked so much over the last few years. A truly great man once said, any man who reads too much and uses his own brain too little falls into lazy habits of thinking. It's hard to argue with that logic. An ordinary man will not sit around because he's lazy, but because a given subject is just of no interest to him. For instance, I'm not interested in knitting, but Slavia is. So does it mean that I'm a slacker if I don't make a couple of woolen sweaters per month? But feeling too lazy to open a book, that's something I can understand. Although I like reading, when I started thinking that I have to get through a huge novel page by page, and even if it's interesting, even if it absorbs me so completely that I can't turn away, that part will only come later. For now, all I need is to get a bookshelf or a book from a shelf and open it, but I feel too lazy. I don't know what exactly influenced me, but about half of my time, instead of the 5 to 10% of it from before, I was occupied with something useful. I read, wrote, studied something new, and engaged in sports, at least exercise in the morning. Sometimes I thought it was the influence of the camp. One can't rule out that possibility. For all 7 days, I was participating in social activities, verbal communication with others, in amounts that before would have caused terror and severe introversion in me. On the other hand, it's not so easy to change one's personality in a single week, especially for someone as stubborn as me. But it is easy to point them in a new direction, showing them a guiding line. However, I never believed that it would be possible for me. Anyway, I enjoy these changes so much that I try not to think about their causes. What the hell, nobody was worried about the why if he managed to hit the jackpot by betting his last pair of trousers. I'd like to be able to bet trousers to win a jackpot. In summer, I re-enrolled at university and studies started in the autumn. Time passed. I eagerly attended lectures and seminars and studied for tests and examinations with a level of enthusiasm that I wouldn't have expected from myself. I managed to become a part of the group with surprising ease. Although I was older than most students, it didn't trouble me. Maybe it's because my natural immaturity or changes in my personality. I didn't know for sure. Most likely the answer is somewhere in the middle. The joy of communicating with people lost many years ago returned. It was easy to get along with others. Their problems didn't seem so distant and trivial to me. Normal life, which before I considered just gray, depressing mass, started to shine with new colors. Sometimes it seemed to me that I turned into a doll, because one of a billion identical tin soldiers standing in straight rows on a shelf in a toy shop. But this shop, apart from the glowing showcase that sparkled with fancy writings describing new season offers and Christmas discounts, was a storage, where all the defective products were thrown: a teddy bear without a paw, a firefighter's truck in need of a mechanic, a transformer who looked more like a microwave than a mighty robot, jigsaw puzzles which assembled into trippy postmodernist pictures. My place used to be among these broken toys, and while some of them could take refuge in charity drives or an orphanage, my only fate was being dumped and recycled again, so I couldn't help enjoying such changes in my life. Solid. It was the last lesson of the hardest subject this term. Most students didn't like it, because of its difficulty and hard to understand teacher, I suppose. But I found a kind of pleasure in dealing with tables, graphs, and diagrams. So is it like math? Counting the figures by pieces, I arranged them in the columns and lines in the right order, summing up, subtracting, dividing, and multiplying, and using them to get a precise picture of any event. Sounds, I don't know, like analytics maybe? Computer programming? No number could avoid my attentive gaze. All of them would be captured, calculated, analyzed. Each of them would get an index number and placed in the proper cell. Sounds like spreadsheets. After its arrival, every digit would be assigned in a bunk, work uniform and off-duty clothes, and would be sent to perform its designated tasks. Some will be digging a trench from 9 to 5, some will march off to face the threads, and some will be trying to hit a linear regression on a shooting range. What are you thinking about? Reluctantly, I stopped writing and gazed at my classmate, taking notes on a lecture. As you can see, just screw it. I just read the workbook afterwards. I'll read the workbook as well. I'm always astonished by you. What's so astonishing? You're planning to gain a first-class diploma, aren't you? Never thought of it. Don't tell me you find it interesting. I remember that just a moment ago I'd managed myself emblazoned on a banner borne aloft by a regiment of digits and couldn't help smiling. You won't even need all this stuff. Everything will be needed, except calculus. Unless you're an engineer. At least for general development. The classmate grinned sarcastically. I bet you never read even a single book in your whole life. So what? He asked challengingly. Just stating a fact. You are always somewhere up in the clouds. He was right about that. Although I regained part of my lost social skills, I often slipped out of touch with reality, dreaming of something else. You say it like it's a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with not reading books either. Human beings can't have only material needs, I said philosophically, mocking him. Oh, you're such a danner. Yawn. The lecture was approaching its end, and I began to plan out the rest of the day. Need to buy some groceries, and later finish a project and send it to the client, and then I got to write down notes. And then in the evening I could just read or watch something. Unless someone phones or writes me, there are no urgent matters, so I can spare some time from my mates. 5 whole minutes to go. I looked at my phone and realized it's exactly a year after I returned from the Sovionok pioneer camp. My soul felt warmer from such thoughts. I smiled blissfully. It's not often anymore that I recall those events. Obviously, one can't just forget something like that. Those moments of something bizarre and extraordinary are engraved in my memory forever. Normally, even the happiest moments fade and reminiscence of them remain. Nothing more. But the week spent in Sovionok was different. I remember everything in perfect detail. The terror of the first minutes after waking up in the bus. The first day, hard, full of surprises and amazing acquaintances, cheerful and carefree pranks with Ulyana, and just take that trick with the ghost, for instance. The best Soviet comedians would envy it, and the pioneers had such expressions. They were dying laughing. And sure, it would be nice to meet Ulyana in real life. Oh my god, is she gonna be a college student in real life? Oh. Well, she is not always perfect. She's hyperactive, and she doesn't have any idea about good manners, but one doesn't meet such a sincere, careless, cheerful, and energetic person very often. Maybe she gave some of that energy to me. It makes the fact that she has to stay behind even sadder. Of course, it's just a dream, a figment of my imagination. Although you can worry about book and film characters, one laughs and cries with them and feels their pain. Same thing for me. It seems that if I acted differently, this story would have had an even more joyful ending. However, I'm sure that Ulyana is happy in that world. I just can't imagine her being upset for longer than 5 minutes. Her optimism will help her find a way, even out of the most difficult situations. I wonder what she will look like when she grows up. Of course, we're gonna see it now. Boom! Just kidding. The bell rang. Oh, this thing just keeps dragging on. The bell rang. My classmate stood up and looked at me keenly. Okay, see ya. Can I crib notes from you later? Is that a thing? I've never heard anyone say, "Can I crib notes from you?" If you had been writing down your own during the lecture, you wouldn't need any. So, can I? Okay, fine. No, suck a dick, man. Cheers. He smiled and left the lecture hall. Is that me? That's me. Slowly I packed all my exercise books and textbooks up into my backpack and looked around the empty hall. For a moment, I could almost smell the knowledge in the air, like sea salt in the air on the deck of a ship. Thousands and thousands of students came here to study, to learn something new, or to forget something they used to know. Some slept through the lectures, some wrote them down attentively. Just like me, nobody was completely indifferent. Those who didn't care stayed home. That sounds about right. When I was in college, like half the class just didn't show up because everything was podcasted. It's not that they didn't care, they just didn't go to class because they're too lazy. Pulled the curtains across the windows and fixed their eyes on a monitor. I sighed reluctantly and left the lecture hall with the firm intention of not wasting this day. Is it over? Are we gonna talk about prologue? Yep, nailed it! Yep, there we go. Ulyana's bad ending. Wow. I need to get in the habit of like ending episodes like just at the bus, because the stuff that happens on the bus and afterwards always seems to take like at least like 20 to half an hour, right? 20 minutes to half an hour. So I don't think I ever saw this. So that's nice, I suppose. Yeah, I don't think I did that. That's probably something that would have happened if I went to the canteen, wherever that option was. I'm pretty sure I didn't have that option. But yeah, so I'm gonna guess that, like I said, in Ulyana's good ending, we're gonna go ahead and push her away off the bus and go hang out with her. Maybe we'll see what she did to get punished again, but I'm curious what she did. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's what's gonna happen. And what else? Well, I mean, it is like he said, right? Like she gave him some of her energy, and it's nice. It's good. It's good to see that he went back to finish up his degree or whatever, right? Instead of just living at home, not doing anything. He's gonna end up contributing to society in some way, hopefully. And yeah, always a fan of education. That's just the kind of guy I am. So yeah, cool. We're gonna be a graduate, college graduate. Solid. That's the ending we got. And I'm actually kind of sad we didn't see Ulyana. Like it would have been really funny if like she was like our professor. Like for whatever reason, like we just never noticed who the professor was, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, I'm just like, I'm the last one to leave, looking around, and I looked at my professor, and she like stopped, like she like walks past me to get to the door, and she like stops to like mention something, and I look at her and it's like it happens to be Ulyana, it'd be really funny, right? Because for whatever reason, maybe she's in like her 30s or whatever, and for some reason she appears in my my dream as a 14-year-old girl. Because that's how it works, right? The older you are, the younger you'll actually be in the camp, right? So, yep. Well, that's that. That's a super long episode, basically a double episode. So next time we'll be going after Ulyana's good ending, and maybe we'll learn a little bit more about her and kind of the stuff that happened at the very end when we do that. So until then, thank you for watching. Bye.